Vanessa Castro found the closing documents in a stack of mail addressed to a stranger. The name on the deed was not her mother's anymore. The condo Helen Castro had lived in for 18 years had been sold 6 weeks earlier. Helen had no idea. She was sitting in the next room, watching television, completely unaware that her own son had already spent most of the money. Helen Castro was 79 years old and had spent most of her life in Tampa, Florida, working as a hospital administrator before retiring in 2009. She had raised 2 children largely on her own after her husband passed away young. Over the decades, she had built a modest but steady estate, a waterfront condo, a diversified investment portfolio, and careful savings that totaled just over $2.8 million. Her daughter, Vanessa, was 41 and had always been the one Helen called first. When Helen's health began declining in 2021 following a cardiac event, Vanessa adjusted her work schedule and visited almost daily. Her brother, Marcus, 46, lived only 15 minutes away, but visited far less, usually when he needed something. In early 2021, Helen granted Marcus financial power of attorney, believing it would simply make paying bills easier while she recovered. She trusted him completely. What she did not know was that Marcus had quietly accumulated significant gambling debts and had already begun looking for a way out. Marcus moved carefully at first. He began by withdrawing small amounts from Helen's checking account, amounts low enough that she rarely noticed. By the summer of 2021, he had grown more confident. He listed Helen's waterfront condo for sale without her knowledge, using the power of attorney to sign all necessary documents himself. The sale closed in September for $640,000. The proceeds went directly into an account Marcus controlled. He then liquidated a substantial portion of Helen's investment portfolio, citing the power of attorney to authorize each transaction. Between September and December of 2021, he withdrew an additional $1,200,000. To prepare for what would happen when Helen eventually died, Marcus also forged an addendum to her existing will, adding his name as a co-beneficiary alongside Vanessa, using a signature he had practiced copying from old greeting cards. Helen began noticing something was wrong in early 2022 when a property tax bill arrived listing an unfamiliar owner for her condo. She mentioned it to Vanessa, confused and unsure what it meant. Vanessa called the county recorder's office that same afternoon. Within minutes, she learned the condo had been sold the previous September. She drove to her mother's apartment immediately and found the stack of mail Helen had set aside without opening, assuming it was simply more paperwork from her son. Vanessa retained attorney Sandra Kim, an elder law and probate specialist in Tampa with over 15 years of experience. Sandra filed an emergency petition in Hillsborough County Circuit Court to revoke Marcus's power of attorney and freeze any remaining accessible assets. A forensic accountant was brought in immediately to trace every transaction made under the authority Helen had granted. The financial trail was extensive and damning. The accountant identified the condo sale, the systematic liquidation of the investment portfolio, and a pattern of cash withdrawals that corresponded almost exactly to dates when Marcus's gambling debts had come due. When the forged will addendum surfaced during discovery, a handwriting expert confirmed within days that the signature did not match any of Helen's verified samples. The hearing was held before the Honorable Judge Patricia Alvarez at the Hillsborough County Courthouse in Tampa. Sandra Kim presented the complete financial trail alongside the forensic handwriting analysis.
Helen testified herself, frail but clear, stating she had never authorized the sale of her home or any of the investment withdrawals beyond ordinary bill payments. Marcus's attorney argued that the power of attorney granted broad authority and that Helen had verbally approved of his financial decisions during the period in question. Sandra Kim asked him to produce a single witness beyond Marcus himself who had heard Helen express that approval. He could not. Judge Alvarez ruled that Marcus had breached his fiduciary duty and ordered him to repay the full $1,840,000 in misappropriated assets. She declared the forged will addendum void and referred Marcus to the Hillsborough County State Attorney for criminal prosecution. He was convicted of exploitation of an elderly person and forgery and sentenced to 8 years in Florida State Prison. Helen Castro moved in with Vanessa following the ruling. She never fully recovered the condo she had lived in for 18 years, but the court ensured the remaining estate would go to the daughter who had actually been there. Helen spent decades building a quiet, secure life for her family. Her son spent less than a year trying to take it apart piece by piece. The court made certain he did not get away with it. Would you have noticed the warning signs sooner? Tell us in the comments below. And if this story stayed with you, subscribe to Court of Shadows for more courtroom drama stories every week.